is officially May 1st, and we are back with the voice of Camp Nathaniel, Stephen Bell, coming at you on the campus. You're already laughing. What are you doing?
Because you said it's May 1st, and
It is May 1st.
when everyone's hearing this.
Well, let's forget the fact that we're recording it on April 4th. Welcome to the voice of... You know what? We're not even going to get rid of that. We're keeping that intro.
Okay.
All right? We're keeping that.
You've got a an adverb for today.
I don't have an adverb. It's an adjective.
Okay, an adjective.
We've completely
We've gone off the
derailed
rails.
this episode entirely, and I'm not going to go back and record any of it, Lee. Stephen Bell here with you. And we have just entered into the Twilight Zone, apparently. Wow. Stephen Bell here with you. It is the voice of Camp Nathaniel. And with me, as always, I want to change my adjective now, but I'm going to stay with it.
All right.
The enigmatic Lee Sharp.
Hey, I'll take it.
Will you?
What does enigmatic mean?
It could not have been more perfect than what just happened. Enigmatic means mysteriously puzzly.
You're struggling today.
This
guys.
is going to be some episode, all right? Enigmatic means mysteriously puzzling, leading to laughter due to confusion.
A note for our listeners. Stephen was looking up words to come up with before the podcast, before we started recording.
Yeah.
And as we started recording, we said, all right, just whatever comes out of our mouths, that's what's the intro is going to be.
Happen.
We're just going to roll with it. And
If only I had a sound effect of a train wreck right
the way
now.
things just line up perfectly.
It does, doesn't it? Yes, believe it or not, this is the voice of Camp Nathaniel, and we've spent 2 minutes trying to get through an intro, and Cameron is the one who edits this, and we're not going back and doing anything. It's on, it's happened, we're moving forward, Lee. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great.
Wow.
I'm doing great. We've got a guest here with us.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
if it was just
you heard
left up to me and you today, this would not end well.
You're the third person laughing here.
Someone who's not been around for a while, because we've been doing this. This is our 31st episode of doing the voice of the Camp Nathaniel in this format. And we are bringing on someone who, when we started doing it in this format, was somewhere else on the planet, but not here, making her sound like an alien. But it is Miss Mandy McIntyre.
Howdy, hey.
How are you?
I'm so good. I'm dying of laughter right now because I just had to sit and witness everything that just happened with trying to make myself mysterious and all that.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my word.
It's either going to be a really good show or we should just completely throw in the towel at this point.
Let's start over.
Wow. We were talking literally, were we not? Right before we hit the record button, we were talking about, and Mandy was asking, do you ever do a blooper reel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called This Episode.
It's completely this episode so far. Because you literally said, Lee, that whenever we have bloopers, it's during the intro.
Every single time. Guys, the number of intros that we have re-recorded because it started off with "Welcome to the voice of,"
Except for this one.
except for this one,
We're leaving it.
yes.
Oh, wow. Mandy. No stranger to Camp Nathaniel. You have grown up here at Camp Nathaniel, and then you got on a ship.
Yeah, 2 ships actually.
Not a boat.
a ship.
A ship.
Yeah.
All right?
Common
Let's be
mistake.
clear.
Common mistake.
Common mistake. Mandy has spent the last more than 2 years.
A little over, but 2
little over.
years. We'll say 2
All right,
years
we'll
for the
say
sake of the
2
story.
years. She has spent the past 2 years of her life on a ship traveling all over the world, and she's here today to talk about it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yes.
so
To give our listeners a little bit of introduction, do you want to introduce yourself here? Like you grew up here,
Yeah.
As a mission kid,
Yeah.
and so
let's start there.
let's start with that.
Okay.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Backstory, a little bit of lore.
A little bit of backstory.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's here we go. I'm excited.
All right. So obviously my name is Mandy McIntyre. Jeff McIntyre is my dad,
I was born on a
I was
cold
born on a
windy
full
day.
moon in the cold of October.
Yes.
But no, I grew up at Camp Nathaniel my whole life. It's my second home to me. And actually, it's where my story of wanting to kind of explore missions began.
Okay.
Obviously, my parents work here. My brother works here. So yeah, it's kind of my origin story and my starting place for what I was able to do.
This is the prequel.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, growing up here at camp, you get to hear from missionaries all the time. During summer camp, there's missionaries coming in from all over the world who come and talk about their missions experiences. And it leads, this all kind of works. God's working all of this out to lead you to this specific ministry, which was called, the ship was called the Logos Hope.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So now bring us, we're jet streaming through this.
Yes.
All right. You were just born, you were raised at camp, and now all of a sudden, next thing we know, you're graduating high school. And what happens from there, Mandy? Cause you did do a year
Yeah.
with One Life.
One
Well,
Life.
I about said Young Life. That's a thing too.
Yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school, and I knew it wasn't college. And I said, why in the world am I going to spend all this money on something I don't even know if I want? So I hit some of my teachers pretty hard, and it wasn't fully supported by all of them, but my parents were super great. And I ended up moving to South Carolina for about 9 months, doing a gap year program there. And it was kind of my first introduction to intercultural studies, intercultural missions, stuff like that. We took a 10-day trip to Turkey.
Okay.
And it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And through that and working in Clarkston, Georgia, which is one of the biggest refugee places in America, it was through that I realized that I wanted to work with intercultural communities, on a bigger scale. And I think the ships just really led to that. So when I was finished and still knew I didn't want to go to college, I jumped on a ship and ran away.
Wow. So basically,
That's it. Yeah. No, that was my life.
okay, I just didn't know if that was how that worked or not.
No, exactly.
But,
you got it.
So obviously she didn't become a pirate, but she did get on a ship for 2 years. And so tell us now exactly how you got connected with Logos Hope and on mission is what it's called, on
Operation Mobilization.
Operation Mobilization. So
Yeah.
OM.
OM.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got hooked up with them.
So my grandmother knew the person who started it all. His name is George Verwer. She grew up with his wife. And so they knew George Verwer. My mom, when she was a little girl, my grandparents took her to go visit the ship. I don't know which one it was, but it was here in the States somewhere. And so she saw the book fair. She saw one of the ships, and she was kind of enthralled with it in a bit. And so she, I think, presented the option to Cameron when he was graduated high school, and was looking for a missions opportunity to do. And he didn't end up taking it, which is fine. But when I got out of One Life, my mom kind of presented it to me again. She was like, hey, is this something that you're sure you don't want to do? It kind of it's a really cool opportunity, and it goes through those intercultural missions. You get to travel all over the world. You live on this big boat or the ship.
She called it a boat.
I know. Everyone calls it a boat.
I was warned before I came in here to
were
not
you?
call it a boat because apparently that's an insult
It
or
is.
something
It
like
is.
that.
It is. So it's you live on a ship. It's super cool. Why not apply for it? And I said, okay, this could be something I want to do. Fulfills a passion for travel. Fulfills a passion for intercultural relations. So I said, I just went with it. And before I knew it, I was having to raise $24,000 for
Now let's talk
2
about this
years.
for a second, because this is the crazy thing. Because I remember, I sat down with you. We did a video to help for support raising, and you had to raise $24,000 in how much time?
3 months. Well,
In 3
3
months.
months.
Okay. So obviously she did, but that came in so incredibly fast.
Yeah. It was it's not the first time that's happened either.
Right.
And so it was it's such a faith builder in a way. It just shows you that this is an open door that you're meant to walk through. And the Lord just opened the floodgates of financial support.
You
and they flooded in. Like even afterwards, I still had a whole bunch of like support. If I wanted to extend, I could.
Wow.
It really got me through the 2 years.
So
when you're
go
joining the program, is it like a certain time frame, or is it hey, you're committed for a year, or you're committed for 2 years, you're committed for a year and a half, or 6 months, or how does that?
Yeah, so there are different programs that you can do with the ship. You have a STEP program, which stands for Short-Term Exposure Program. Okay. And that's usually for 3 or 6 months. And then we're thinking a little bit more long-term is 1 to 2 years. After that, you can choose to extend if you want to. We've had people there for 7 years, for 13 years. One of the guys had and raised his youngest child on board the ship, and she was like 8 by the time they left. So, yeah, no joke.
Talk about a wild childhood. You're growing up on a ship, like traveling around the world and doing all. Sounds like a lot of fun.
That does. Hey, if you want more information on the ministry that Mandy's talking about here, Operation Mobilization, it's omusa.org.
Yeah, that's where you can go to.
It's where you can go and find out more information there and how she got involved with that. We always, if one of our family members, someone we're connected to, has missions opportunities that are available to other people as well, we want to make sure we make note of that, especially when you can vouch for them and you've experienced what goes on there. Yeah. So let's talk about this now. Kind of transitioning from that. So we've talked about how you got your fundraising, talked about how you got connected with them. Bring us up to speed to that first day. What was it like boarding the ship? And because this isn't a cruise ship, for one.
There's no pool. There's no pool.
No water slides, none of that. So kind of bring us up to that first day. Kind of what happened.
So I flew to Accra, Ghana, and stayed in a hotel in the middle of nowhere.
That's not in Kentucky.
It's not in Kentucky.
Okay, well,
that's like 7-8 hours ahead of our time. I time traveled. Really, it was pretty cool.
Isn't technology great?
So I was quarantined for about a week with the people that I would be joining the ship with. So we got to know each other. But I remember
you were quarantined.
It was the time of COVID.
Oh, that's right.
Stephen, this was COVID.
Here's how it starts. We bring you together with 12 other people. We lock you in a room for 2 weeks. Get to know each other because you're going to be with each other for a while. Just kidding.
Essentially. I remember we were boarding the bus to be driven to the ship. It was about a half-hour ride. And the whole time we're all like shaking. We're all like smiles on our faces. We're shaking. And I remember seeing in the distance, we're kind of in this more industrial port. And so you have all these machinery and buildings around. But I remember my first glimpse of the ship, and we all like scream. Like we're all like, there it is! Oh my goodness, it's our new home! We were driving in, and the book fair's open at this time. The whole ship is a book fair. I don't know if...
Who doesn't love book fairs?
I don't know if that was mentioned before, but the whole entire ship, its ministry is a book fair.
Yeah.
And so the book fair is open at this time. And there's lines of people just in there. And we see like the ship people like working in the book fair. And we're all like at the windows waving to them. And they're waving back. And we're like, oh my goodness. So we get out of the bus and we climb up this super big gangway. It felt like a million stairs at the time. It's not. But it felt like a million stairs. And we get in. And all of what we call ship's company, it's everyone with the ship. They're there with their flags. And they're like just cheering, waving them. And it's like we have this huge like line of people and tunnel that we have to walk through to get to this meeting room, basically. Yeah. They put on this huge percussion show for us. They dance. It's like this huge celebration for us when we join the ship. So it was 10 out of 10. It was something I'll never forget.
That is really, really cool. Now let's talk about that for a second, because the ship operates as a book fair, like you said. So that's the point of ministry that they have, that how they operate, and it's a world traveling book fair is what it is. I remember book fairs at school. I remember how cool book fairs were.
Yeah.
I remember when you walk into the book fair and they're selling. You got all these kinds of books. You know what I loved? I loved the erasers that they had that were shaped like other things.
Like animals? Or?
Like animals. And I remember they had school bus erasers and like erasers shaped like cars. You would just buy those. Or like You were supposed to buy books. I know. I just bought a $10 worth of erasers.
Bookmark. They sell candy at ours, I think.
What?
Do they sell candy at yours?
No, we never got candy at school.
No,
Are
we
you
got
kidding me?
candy.
But it's a ship, though.
No one would buy the books at that point.
Right.
I say because it's not just running a book fair.
That's listen, it's a ship.
There is a whole ship to run.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. So you had people that worked in the book fair.
We did, yeah.
Now explain to us, because I know when you went into these various countries and you pulled up you
Pulled up, just skirted on in.
You just pulled up, you paralleled that thing, you know,
essentially.
And so I know you had like country leaders and like people, dignitaries coming into
we had the
ship
king
as
of
well.
Ghana on our ship.
That's awesome.
Did you know there was a king of Ghana?
Nah, I know now.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrinkling my brain. So what experiences like that? How was that?
So my hello, English. Initially, I didn't really get to communicate or be in a lot of touch with the main big officials that came on board. But later in my time on board with my job and stuff, I had to like one-on-one personally like give tours to these people.
Very cool.
And welcome them on board and give them food and coffee and tea. And so that was really cool just to say like, I met like the Princess of Jordan. That's pretty cool.
Sure.
And just being able to, make connections like that with U.S. ambassadors around the world.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. We got to host, like, if we had our country ambassadors come on board, then sometimes we were asked to host them and meet them, and we'd get invited over to the building, and they'd give us like food and something, or something. So it's just really cool, like connections in that way as well.
That's awesome. Now let's talk about your job on the ship. Now, did that job change? I'm assuming it changed over the course of 2 years, or did it not?
So when you go on board, you have 5 jobs that you can initially go into. You have your book fair, obviously. You have your galley or the kitchen crew.
The galley.
It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
We have the galley, and their whole entire job is cooking for us and cleaning up the dining room. Putting on events as well, catering for them. We have what we call the angels department. That is basically the cleaning crew of the ship. They go around, they wake up at like 5:30 in the morning, and they start cleaning every bathroom. They wipe every handrail. They vacuum every inch of carpet. They clean the entire ship on the inside. And they're absolute angels because that ship would be a mess without them.
Wow. Okay, then. Yeah.
So you have them. You have, book fair, galley, angels. And then you have your 2 kind of what we call maintenance departments or MOPs, marine operations. And that's the engine crew and the deck crew.
Okay.
Well, they're pretty cool. They were my favorite, but that's just because I was one of them.
I'm
a little biased,
Look at that a little bit.
So engine crew, they obviously work in the engine room, the bellows of the ship.
Is it hot down there?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Seasickness is not a good thing for the engine room. I'll tell you that right now. It was a mess sometimes.
That leads to another question I'm going to ask here in a second.
So they're in charge of getting the engine started, keeping them up to speed, cleaning them, whatever. And then my favorite department, the deck department.
All right.
We were in charge of basically navigation of the ship. We had to do any kind of arrival preparations, departure preparations. That meant like putting out the mooring lines. And then while we were in port or sailing, we were in charge of the upkeep and maintenance of the outside of the ship.
Okay.
So there's a lot of cool things that entail. I got my steering certificate so I can legally drive a ship now.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, so there was a helm?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. It was
nice.
cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I can legally work on any ship that I want to now. As a navigational watch rating, it's my title.
That's really cool.
So I'm a seaman.
So all hands on deck. That was
it's way cooler than Zach and Cody made it seem. I'll tell you that right now.
The sweet life. Wow. That's awesome. That is so cool. Now, obviously, you were not the only crew member on this ship. How many crew members are we talking? And it's not just, we're talking international here. So you met people, you were on this ship with people from all over the world. So number one, roughly how many crew members are we talking at any given time? And then how many countries were represented, if you know? Yeah,
so we were about 300 to 350 people.
Okay.
And it was over 70 nationalities that were represented. And there were only like 20 Americans on board. So
Really?
yeah,
Wow,
And
okay.
So it's crazy.
So how did communication work here?
Yeah.
I have to ask because
Did every-
something
it's
is
a
going to
valid
get
question.
something's going to get lost in communication.
It
Did
definitely did.
everyone have to know English to be on the ship?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
Some people cheated on their English tests and they came in knowing nothing, and that was a little difficult.
Wow.
But yes, everyone technically has to know English in order to be on board the ship. But that doesn't make communication necessarily any easier because any natural English saying that we would have or any sarcasm that I would bring forth in conversation
Sarcasm doesn't
didn't
translate.
sometimes go over very well. So
Yeah, that doesn't translate at all. Wow. So over 70 nationalities.
yeah, on Logos Hope.
So if you're talking now, does OM, do they have more than the Hope? Do they have more than one ship?
They have another Hope, but it's Doulos Hope.
Oh, Doulos Hope. So okay.
Yeah, that's a lot smaller.
Got it.
Lot
So
smaller.
so they have the two ships. You were, of course, were on Logos Hope, which is the largest of the two.
On both.
Oh, you were on both.
I got to go on both.
Okay, good deal. So how many does the other ship hold then?
The other ship has a little over 100 people.
Okay.
Maybe 30 nationalities. It's a lot smaller. It's maybe like
Wow.
half the size of Logos Hope.
And does the other one operate as a bookstore as well?
Yeah, they're both book fairs.
Okay, so
It's
that's
their
the primary
main ministry. Yeah.
Okay, good deal.
We have the world's largest floating book fair, and we have the world's second largest floating book fair. So
I mean, I don't know who's in the running for third right
yeah,
now.
it's
but-
us. It's us.
Got it. How many different countries did you visit? Do you know?
24.
On how many continents?
3. Yeah, Africa, Asia, and then Europe.
Nice. So didn't hit Antarctica on this trip. Huh?
Unfortunately not.
you
They're
know.
at South Africa right now, Logos Hope is, so
That's as
they
close
might
as
make
they're
a
gonna
trip
get,
down
so.
there, but I don't know.
Nice. Okay, so what was probably and Lee, feel free to interject here anytime you want. Give us one of your most memorable experiences on the ship during those 2 years?
Okay, so it was actually off the ship that I had my most memorable experience.
Because you guys got to spend quite a bit of time off the ship too,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
you would port and
The gangway is a 2-way system. We bring people on and we send people off.
Okay.
So it's that way. We got to connect with locals a lot. But within each port, the ship puts together what we call challenge teams. And so it's a small team that gets to go off for about a week or so. And
wow,
really,
so you were off for that long.
really invest themselves in the community that they're
That's
in.
cool.
I had such an awesome opportunity, and I went on a road trip in Oman from the city of Muscat to the city of Salalah. It took about 5 to 7 days. I can't remember the exact 5-7. But it was one of the most amazing experiences I had in my life. It was me and 3 other girls. And we just spent our whole entire time sitting around eating dates with Arabic women and dancing in the desert. And it was so cool. But I remember this one specific time.
It's like the favorite pastime, right?
Yeah, no, honestly.
Isn't that what you do on the weekends?
That's what I do.
Sit around eating dates, dancing in the
dates and
desert.
Dancing in the desert.
Well, it's like, because we go into these countries and we're briefed on what we can and can't do. And Oman is one of those countries as women, we're not allowed to show our hair.
Yeah.
And so when we went on this trip, the 3 of us, it's very like, you don't show your ankles, you don't point your feet at anyone, you don't show your hair. It's like very, very strict in that way.
Yeah.
So we're with these women in the desert, and we come upon one lady who I'm not actually allowed to name her. We'll call her Mother.
Okay.
So Mother, she was so kind, and I remember this one time I did my hair in like a braid. And it was kind of fun. We became like really close at this time. And so we were allowed to like show our hair with her. We were allowed to show our faces with her. She
cool.
reciprocated in that way as well. And so like we became really comfortable with her, and she became very comfortable with us. So I had my hair in a braid one day, and she talked to the translator that was with us. She was like, her hair is so cool. Do you think she can do that for me? And I was like, what? Because hair is such a like intimate and like sacred thing to them. And this woman was asking me to braid her hair. And like something about it was just so like touching and like, oh my goodness, this moment that I'm having with this woman in the desert who I'm never going to see before, like ever again in my life. Allowing me to do such like, I don't know, like a precious thing, or like like, I don't know, almost private in a way. It's like, because you don't show your hair, you don't do anything like that. And she's asking me if I can, style her hair in a way that she could maybe do it to her daughter or her granddaughter. And so I braided her hair for her, and we had like the whole thing recorded. And I actually got sent the recording of it, and it was like, it's something that I think back on a lot. Like that is such a special moment for me. And it was such like an open door. I think there was definitely a seed there that showed, like, even though we don't necessarily believe the same thing, like there is kindness and there is love in the followers of Jesus. So it was such a really cool experience.
So what was one of the biggest things that God taught you then over the course of these 2 years?
It was definitely how to love like him. I think stereotypes are definitely a big thing that played a lot into my mindset when going into some of these countries. We were in the Arabic region for a lot of the time, maybe about 6 months. And so going in, we went to like Iraq, and going in there, it was very almost scary in a way. And so I remember I would tell people I was from Canada because I didn't want to be associated with the United States in a place like Iraq. Until one time somebody introduced me and said, "Oh yeah, this is Miranda. She's from the United States." And I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't want them to know this." And this guy, he turned and his face lit up. He goes, "America, I love America. It's one of my favorite countries." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." Like, they don't see like anything of my past. Like, they don't see anything of my country's past in me. They see someone who they can love and who they can be friends with. And with that, God taught me just how to completely open myself up and love these people with the love of Jesus, that I was kind of withholding myself from them. So yeah, it was a really cool experience that way.
So I got a question here, and this is a slightly less serious question, but I have to throw it out here.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm wording this very specifically.
And I have a way less serious question after he's done.
So,
okay, good. We're dialing it back. Got it.
We're coming to a close pretty soon.
In all the travels, in a couple of years there, what was the funnest meal that you had?
Is funnest a word?
Funnest. The most fun.
Because I know that's a good question.
Because I know that like it's like, oh, who has the best food, and you're like, oh, well, you're basing it just on taste and whatnot. But I know, depending on the culture that you're going into, some of those meals are a lot of fun.
Food questions are some of the hardest questions to answer. They really are. So
because this is like the whole food experience.
I know. It's like you're not,
or maybe just one that pops up into your head.
I mean,
it's like you're not just going to an Arab restaurant in America or an African restaurant in America.
They're there. You have to eat like they eat.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know I ate with my hands a lot, and that was really fun for me because I think like I'm so used to fork and knife, utensils, be polite, be proper, don't play with your food. It was all play with that food.
Nice.
It was sticky. Like it was in, when we were in Oman, it was sticky. It was like really getting everywhere. It made your hands smell, but it's like, that's how you ate it. And it was actually really fun to be able to get in there and eat with your hands and just kind of make a mess of things, really.
So any particular meal stand out that you can remember, or any particular flavor that just kind of knocked you backwards?
You were like, wait a second.
So we had this, like, it was kind of mushy. Okay. Like, it's a mush. And they made it in a hole, and they beat a, like, lamb with rice and, like, bones and everything. They beat it to a pulp.
Oh, wow.
And so it's this huge, like, ball of basically mush, and you're eating it with like little bits of meat here and there. And it was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. They slow cooked it in the ground.
Okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you.
I will say, when we were in the Philippines, there's a specialty of like a fertilized duck egg that you can eat.
Okay.
I did not stay long enough to try that. I got sent home in the Philippines, so
all right then. Wow. Okay. Well, getting back to one thing that you discussed, we were talking about the engine room. We were talking about seasickness.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can just imagine. I can't really imagine, but I'm just thinking in my head. Obviously, there had to be some rough waters.
Yeah, of course.
So. What was that experience like? Did you ever get seasick?
I never got seasick.
Really?
Seasickness is for the weak, Stephen.
Well, is it now?
It is.
That's me. Right. I am the weak. Guys, I can't even get on like a cruise boat without taking some medicine before getting on that thing.
I am the weak. Wow.
No, we always say this thing like seasickness is a mentality. And so it's like, if you keep yourself busy, if you do all this stuff. I remember one time we were sailing to I don't remember. It was really bad. I think it was to Iraq. It was pretty bad. We were in the middle of a storm and the ship was rocking big time. And I'll tell you, anytime that there's a big storm, our what we call the most stable place on board, it's in the lobby. It looks like a refugee camp.
Okay.
There are the crew members staying there with like blankets and pillows and buckets like strategically placed around the room. It smells horrible. But it was this trip. I remember hearing a story of some guy in the engine room. And it's so bad. I felt so bad for him. But he was on watch during that time. We have a 24-hour watch, and it was his turn to do a watch. And he started to get seasick, and somebody was in the bathroom down there. And so he couldn't get into it. And so he booked it out the door, and he ran up. And we have these long flight of stairs that lead to the main hallway where you can like get some fresh air kind of. And I remember before he got there, it just like all over the engine room door. And it like, the engine room door is like, it's above some like hollow stairs kind of. And so like there's grates in it. And it was like dripping down. It was so bad. I felt so bad.
Wow.
But yeah, I always felt bad for him.
Wow. Well, Mandy, listen, is it sad that we're ending on a vomit story? I mean, everything that we've just talked about.
The perfect way to end this.
Well, it started.
It's the
way the
perfect
show
way.
started today. It was.
We've come full circle.
Yeah.
It started as a mess. It's ending as a mess.
Oh, my word. Yes.
Mandy, thanks so much for joining us. It's been just awesome getting to catch up with you. And, I know everybody listening, they've enjoyed the stories too. You're going to be hanging out with us this summer and sharing with the kids. And it's going to be awesome. So we'll just kind of leave it out on the way we, not on the way we started, because the way we started was kind of a train wreck, but we'll at least go out like this. Yo ho, it's life for me. All right. Mandy, thanks again so much. It's been awesome. This is Stephen Bell again, the enigmatic
Lee Sharp.
Laughter leading to confusion.
We'll hang out with y'all again in a couple of weeks here.
All right, guys. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.